I bought this barbell about 3 years ago because I suddenly had a realization that exercise is actually really healthy, right? We should all be doing it. So what I did is I bought not just a barbell. I bought the whole set. I bought a fitness outfit that made me look, well, to be honest, it was a bit tight. But I looked at the outfit and the barbell and it just made me want to work out, you know. I followed the Instagram accounts. I announced to my friends, this time's going to be different. This time I'm going to take it seriously. So flash forward to today. It's been sitting in my attic for the past 2 years or so, gathering dust. I think, honestly, the most action it has seen since I bought it was just me walking on this stage with it. So you might wonder, why did I bring this here? Maybe she's going to talk about awareness training. It's like training a muscle. No, I brought this barbell here today to make a point. And the point is broken promises. No, I'm kidding. The point is, it's an illusion. Awareness and even motivation, intention, doesn't lead to behavior change. Me knowing that exercise is healthy for you, me wanting to exercise, did not change my behavior. And somehow when we think about your own behavior, that makes sense, right? You know that yourself. But somehow something magical happens when you step inside the office and we sprinkle some awareness training over people and we expect them to magically become aware and change their behavior. Well, we don't expect the same from ourselves. So this is a symbol of, I'm not going to throw it, don't worry. This is a symbol of that illusion. And it's an illusion, you can imagine this parallel universe where it does work, where awareness and intention and motivation leads to behavior change. And I kind of imagine myself to look like that in that world, in this alternate universe. Unfortunately, I don't look like that. But I like looking at it. So this is what I call the awareness illusion, or the awareness trap. Somehow we think, once they realize or once they know, then they will change their behavior. They will be more careful. They will change their behavior. They will stop clicking on that effing phishing test link. But it's also to be honest, it's kind of like wishful training, a combination of wishful thinking and awareness training. So, I didn't always work in cybersecurity. I came into the business a couple of years ago, and it was what struck me most and what kind of got me into the business was a story about Diginotag. I can see heads nodding. Right. So there's, especially the younger generation, I unfortunately no longer belong to that generation. The younger generation might not know, but this is something, they were hacked, basically, in 2011. And that was especially weird because they were so outstanding in their security measures. They had top-notch security measures. So one of the security measures they had, this is actually not, this is just a random stock photo. So this is not from Diginotag. But what they had is this kind of vault-like room. So all SSL certificates were issued from inside that vault. And you needed even biometric access to control, to get access into that room. So, sounds very safe. People are very impressed when they heard about this vault. But when they were hacked, some researchers from Fox IT checked all the systems, obviously, found out some unpatched vulnerabilities. But the thing that struck me as a psychologist, as a behavioral scientist the most, was this one cable they found on the second floor, the same floor as that vault. So they found a cable that was connected to a computer on the one end. It was a gray, one of those network cables. It was connected to a computer, like on a random desktop. And then this is what I imagine it to be like. I wasn't there. So the cable was running across the floor and the ceiling, and the researcher tracked it all the way to the vault. So that one cable completely annihilated the whole vault security measure. So the researcher asked the employees, like, why did you do this? And he said, well, it's very time consuming. Like, it takes 10 to 15 minutes to enter the vault and issue the certificate and go back. Also, it's really cold in there. This could have been me, by the way. I'm also a person who tends to get cold. So, if you're wondering, by the way, who that is in the bottom screen, I imagine this to be the security awareness officer at DigiNotar. Yeah. So what do we do? If this is our reality, in spite of all these security awareness trainings and all their promises of behavior change, this still happens. What do we do? I think we have 3 options. All right? You can pick and choose. You're all independent human beings. But I hope we will help you pick option C by the end of this talk. All right? So what do? Option A is give up on people. Trust no one ever. I think it's also called assume breach. It's an option. I get it. If so, it's okay. I'm a psychologist. You can come talk to me later today. Okay? Option B is more. We need more. We need to punish people who don't get the answers right, or if they fail the phishing test, we need to give them a mandatory extended security awareness training. So, maybe you are one of those people. I hope you won't be by the end of this talk. And option C is understand human behavior first and what drives it, and then adjust your strategy accordingly. All right. So the very first point I already made about human behavior is something you now understand, right? You understand that there is a gap between knowing, wanting, knowledge, skills, motivation, and doing. There's a gap. And behavior science has many answers to what is in between that gap. And by knowing what's in that gap, inside that gap, you know better how to take effective measures. Because you can target those. Now, fortunately, we are female-founded company, Behavior Words. And my business partner, Roos, also female, will tell you a bit more about that gap.
Thank you. So currently what we're doing when we're rolling out a whole awareness training program, what we're doing is we're trying to make people more aware of the risks. We want them to change their intentions and behave in a more safe way. But if we're only focusing on awareness and trying to dial up that awareness, that knowledge, then if we really stop there, then I actually don't think we're gonna be happy with the results. Because we're switching that gear of awareness and just hope that somehow behavior switches with it, changes with it. But as Tünde just explained, there's a whole gap in between those two. Here is just a handful of behavioral factors that influence, well, our behavior. Think of social norms, like what are your colleagues doing? How much effort does it take to do a certain tasks? Or do you maybe have certain habits that are helpful or harmful? Some of these behavioral factors, we're conscious of them, we're aware that they're influencing us. But some of them we're maybe not so aware of. Well, what's a presentation without the iceberg? In our context, what's above the water, what we can see is the conscious part. So that's the part of the behavioral factors that we know are influencing our behavior. What's underneath the surface is the unconscious behavioral factors. So the things that are influencing us unconsciously and quite automatically. In behavioral science, we like to talk about this as the difference between system 1 and system 2 processing and thinking about, well, making certain decisions, and decisions will result in a certain behavior. So under the water, the unconscious part is system 1. It's a very fast and automatic way that we process information and behave. Above the sea level, above the surface, we have system 2. That's a way more conscious and deliberative way of making decisions. But since it's a bit more deliberative, it also takes more time. In practice, we see that we use our system 1 actually all the time. It's just always on. And system 2 gets activated whenever we think it's necessary. Actually, we don't consciously turn it on. It just happens automatically. To give you an idea of what that feels like, I want to do a quick test. Don't worry, I'm sure you all will be fine. First is an example round. I'm going to show a problem on the screen, and you just shout the answer as soon as you know it. Okay? There we go. 2. Awesome. Okay. Well, I think you will be fine. There are 3 more problems. 3. And I'll go a little bit faster. So just shout the answer as soon as you know it, okay? There we go. Anyone?
Give you a moment.
Well, the answer is 408. Oh, quick. So what happened here? You noticed how everybody slowed down and really had to think like, oh, wait, this one is actually a little bit difficult. I need to think about how I'm going to solve this problem. So with 1 + 1 and 2 + 2, it's so familiar to you that the answer comes automatically. That's your system 1. But then when it gets a little bit more complicated, system 2 gets activated. So you really need to slow down and use a bit more effort. That's exactly also the point with system 1. It takes more effort. So for those who think, well, why don't we just switch on system 2 all the time? Well, we do need to get through a lot of tasks on a daily basis, right? We need to respond to emails, chat messages. We need to answer phone calls, go in Teams and Zoom meetings. We need to make deadlines, write reports. There's so much that we need to do, that we need to spend our attention on, that it's just impossible to do everything on that highly activated mode of system 2. So actually, that our brain came up with this system of system 1 and 2, to divide our attention and our energy in a bit more efficient way. That's actually very useful, very efficient. I experienced this the other day. I live in Amsterdam, and I like the buzz of the city, although I can also get overwhelmed quite quickly if it's just a bit too busy. But hey, what are you asking for? You moved to Amsterdam. I was walking around, minding my own business, enjoying my stroll, and then at some point, someone calls out my name. So I turn around and see my cousin that I hadn't seen in 8 years. So first of all, surprised that he recognized me, but also I realized, well, he was walking past me with a friend and I was going that way. Didn't notice him at all. Didn't notice the conversation that they were having. Didn't hear any of it. But then as soon as he said my name, my brain thought, oh wait, that's our name. Like, that's important information to us. We should pay attention to this. This information, my own name, passed my attention barrier. So what this really shows is that if my system 2 would be on all the time, I wouldn't be enjoying my stroll through Amsterdam. It would be super overwhelming. But whenever there is information, whenever there is a reason that my brain thinks is important enough to switch it on, like my own name, it switches on. But it's not that I chose to suddenly listen to their conversation in that moment. So, back to the iceberg. When we talk about awareness training really aims to increase someone's intention to change their behavior or their knowledge, the knowledge of the risks. They need to be way more aware and know about how important this is. But actually, what it does is it targets system 2. So when there is so much that happens unconsciously, when we're working on so many different tasks and we're really in the system 1 condition, how are we going to change the way people behave in the system 1 condition? It's not to say that awareness training is bad. We're not against it or so. There are definitely also benefits to it. For example, it's very scalable, easy to roll out in a larger organization. Well, you are legally kind of required to do something with awareness, so yeah, it ticks that box, that's nice. It provides a sense of control. You can track it. You can track how many people are completing the training and how they're scoring on it. Also, can really be fun. I mean, who hasn't done an escape room this year? Escape rooms are fun, right? Problem is, awareness is a method. It's not the goal in itself. And I think it's really important that we realize that. We need to realize that awareness training is a method to get to the goal. And what is that goal? Well, we think the goal should be behavior. Because if we're trying to put all our focus and attention and efforts on changing that gear of awareness, and then hope that through all the other conscious and unconscious behavioral factors, we maybe impact behavior a tiny bit, is that really the most efficient way of, well, changing behavior? Or should we move our focus and change our goal from awareness to behavior? And actually, we might realize that there are interventions and techniques and tools that we can use to change behavior more directly. This year, scientific research, a new paper got published in 2025 that showed that training has no significant impact on cybersecurity behavior. No significant impact. Sorry. We have a part with some tips for what to do instead, so just... This wasn't just any study, it was a meta-analysis. So what that means is that it is kind of like an aggregate of different scientific studies that focus on a similar topic or the same topic, and it tries to figure out an overall consensus or like a more reliable result of the overall evidence on this topic. So it's quite significant. What this study did is they analyzed 69 scientific studies with an N, so that's the amount of participants, amount of people that participated in those studies, of more than 80,000. That's huge. That's so many people. I've never done a study where, like, I had access to that many people. But okay, so they analyzed all those studies, and they were all one way or another, on the effect that training programs have on the behavior of the end users. Apparently, only half of those studies measured the impact of training on behavior. The other studies measured things like the impact of training on knowledge, attitude, or intention. But I mean, intention only gets us so far, right? The results weren't all negative because training did have a positive, significant impact on attitude and knowledge. So that's great. But it did not significantly impact behavior. Now, there's this quote that I really like by Stephen Covey. It is possible to be very, very busy without being very effective. If the ladder is not leaning against the right wall, then every step we take just gets us to the wrong place faster. I think in this case, we should maybe ask ourselves, are we leaning against the right wall? Is awareness and awareness training getting us where we want to be? Or Are we maybe working on being very, very busy, keeping all our colleagues very busy with doing all these trainings, but actually we're not really getting where we want to be? We like to assume that people always have access to complete information, or at least do everything in their power to get all the information possible, and then carefully rate all the pros and cons and do evaluations and analyses and, ultimately choose the most secure or optimal decision and outcome, action. But more realistically, we don't have all the information available to us. Or maybe we think we have, but maybe some information is flawed. Also happens. We don't have all the time in the world. We have to-do lists that are endless. We don't have all the cognitive capacity to focus on every single task with the same amount of attention and effort, because system 1, system 2. As a result, we do quick evaluations of the risks, and we turn to satisficing rather than optimizing, which means that we do what we think is good enough to get the job done, but we don't always go for the most secure, optimal decision. Something that sums this up really nicely is the law of least effort. That means that if there are multiple ways to go about a certain action or reach a certain goal, then eventually we will gravitate towards the easiest one. So if you're dealing with problems like shadow IT, it is possible that people are not trying to be a pain in the ass. Maybe they just need to get a certain task done, and the tools that they have available to them are just a bit slow, or maybe they don't have the right features, or they're just annoying, and they decide to go for a tool that IT didn't improve. But in their perspective, in their defense, it does help them get the task done quicker. Another example is something that happened to us actually. We went to an event for a client. We, at the entrance, signed up, gave our ID, we got our cards, and Tünde got a really nice key cord or a tag or something, and I just got the card. And on the card, it said in big letters, "Please wear this very visibly." So I was like, yeah? How do I do that then? If I don't have a clip or a key cord, or like, what am I supposed to do? So the guy started looking for one, but he couldn't find one. And then he said, you know what? For today, it's fine. So what did I do? Being very well aware that it's important to wear your visitor badge, I just walked around the location with my card. But at some point, that's just impractical. Like, I had to put it down because we were there for a reason, not to hold cards. So I ended up putting it in my pocket at some point. It's not that I'm not aware that you need to tell me about why it's so important to wear your badge or wear your visitor pass. But if nobody gives me the tools to do that in a logical way, or like in a way that's different than just holding it, it's becoming quite difficult. What this shows is that behavior isn't just the result of someone wanting to do something because they know it's so important, or they're just so motivated to do this. It's also the product of the context that we're in. If someone isn't afforded or isn't provided with the right tools to do something, but you ask them to do it, well, what are we really asking of them? Isn't that wishful thinking as well? In behavioral science, we talk about the differences between the individual level and the system level. So the individual level, the I level, is about individual factors like knowledge, motivation, emotions, and habits that you have. So some people might have a really good habit of locking the screen after or when they get up. Maybe some people have a very reliable or very accurate risk perception of something. The S level, the system level, is more about the contextual factors that influence our behavior. So think of certain tools that we have available or the digital environments that we work in, but also things like leadership or social norms. Example here would be, well, offering a good password manager to your employees, or having policy that's actually easy to understand and follow. what we learned so far is that awareness training doesn't have significant impact on behavior, sadly. Behavior is the result of conscious behavioral factors that we're conscious of, and factors that we're actually unconscious of, that they're influencing us. And behavior is a product of, on one hand, the individual, and on the other hand, the context. So when you think back of this question with those ABC and those funny memes that Tünde showed this morning, just like half an hour ago, option A was give up on people. Don't trust anyone. Option B was more security awareness training. I hope that by now you might opt for option C. First, understanding human behavior, what actually influences us, and then adjust your strategy accordingly to actually improve behavior. How do we do that? Tünde will tell you about it.
Wow. Hi. I'm back. Yeah. Because I made a promise to you. I said we're also going to help you choose option C, which is not only about understanding the human behavior that Roos just talked about, but also adjusting your strategy accordingly. What does that look like? So I have great news for you guys. We have a product for this. It's a necklace. You can buy it. Call this number and you'll be fine. You just buy one for every employee, and it's amazing. Yeah, no, so, I'm sorry to break your hearts, but it doesn't exist. So there's no magical formula. There is not one solution or one product that we can offer or anyone can offer that will magically change people's behavior. If that were the case, I think we would have been contacted by some Russian government by now, which is not the case. So, what to do instead? This is the hard truth. It's uncomfortable, but it's true. Instead, what you need, in our opinion, is knowledge not just about the way behavior works, but also when to choose which behavioral techniques and strategies to change that behavior. Because it depends. So if you do an analysis first of the individual in its context, then you know which techniques to choose. So it's sort of like a behavioral science toolbox. And that first step of knowing what, analyzing the current behavior in the current context, it helps to know what drives behavior. Fortunately, we made this is sort of, if you print this out on a necklace, you'll be fine, right? So you made a really nice looking behavioral model. I can see some heads going this way. I'm actually considering not changing it just because I like to see people go like this when I show it. But it's quite complicated, right? So this still doesn't really tell you what to do. So what behavior change requires is not just a nice model. It's two things. It's one, custom behavior analysis. Ideally, we would combine quantitative and qualitative research. That's what we usually do at Behaviorverse for our clients. So we combine, for example, very thorough quantitative studies, the available data points that are in the organization, combine that with some good survey questions, analyze it, and also do actually talk to people in the organization. So we can also get some qualitative insights. That's one. The next step is to know which strategy and techniques to use based on that analysis. So here's the thing. We often think about, okay, so what tool do you offer? What product are you selling? Without any strategy. There's no strategy in our approach to security awareness and changing behavior. It's a tool, it's a program, it's a campaign, but what is the underlying strategy? So we need a behavior strategy, a behavior-informed strategy. So, unfortunately, I can't make you guys behavioral scientists in the... How many minutes do I have left? Oh, yeah. Okay. I can't. I'm sorry. I wish the necklace was real and effective, but it's not. So, I'm going to break this down for you instead. And make it, hopefully, as specific as possible for you. So, take away whatever you think is useful for you and your organization. Number one is don't fight the system. Don't fight the human operating system, the way humans naturally work. Don't try to get people to use the other system instead of that annoying system that's flawed. No. And I mean like system 1, system 2, not the actual system. Play into it. Use it. Accept the situation as it is. Do any of you guys know... Oh, yeah, that's actually a few slides from this one. I'm sorry. So, 3 specific tips. I'll show them at the end on a full slide, so you can also take a picture. You don't have to do that in between. Tip number 1, define your behavior goals. And you're like, well, we have goals. The goal is behavior. Okay, great. So what kind of behavior? What does it look like? If it's password management, okay, so what do you want people to do exactly? And just asking this question and defining a clear goal for the desired behavior is often so hard for organizations. And also very insightful. So make this not just risk-based, but ideally threat-based. What kind of behavior would you like to see from your employees? And please be selective. So it matters whether it's proportional or not to the threat. You can produce 50 golden rules of cybersecurity handbook. No one's gonna read it. I'm so sorry. So instead, be selective, focus, maybe select a few a year, make that your main focus. Second tip is empathize to analyze. All right, so it's really hard to put away all your judgment about that one network cable in the vault, right? You're like, oh my God, people. Okay, it's hard. So it takes empathy and actually walking a mile in another person's shoes. So just assume that the behavior, the current behavior, is happening or not happening for a reason. And it's up to you to discover that reason. Or reasons. Let go of that wishful training, wishful thinking. This is the current situation. This is reality. This is what it is right now. So instead of focusing on what it should be, focus on what is happening right now. And once you do that, once you analyze that, tip number 3 comes up. And for tip number 3, I would say use a curling approach. Who here knows what curling is? Okay. It's a really funny sport. I'm sorry if there are any curling enthusiasts here. It's kind of like jeu de boule, bowling games, but on ice. And things don't naturally glide on ice very well. You have to do something to make it glide across the ice. So what happens is one of the team members has this thing. I don't even know what the shape is. You'll see it. A disc. Thank you. It's like a big disc. And he glides it across the ice like that. And then the rest of the team go like this. And I think it's such a funny image. I think it's the funniest sport to look at. And the goal is to get the disc right in the bullseye or close to something, I believe. But yeah, so imagine yourself doing this, okay? The curling approach means that you make the desired behavior, your behavior goal, as easy as possible for people in your organization. Don't try to change the disk. Try to change whatever's happening around it. And please film it for me and send it to me if you do that too. So instead of focusing only on individuals, let's focus also on the systems around it, the context in which the behavior takes place. And how can we, before we try to, put all the responsibility onto the individual, what can we do? Whatever your role is in your company, what can you do to change the environment, the systems around it, to make it easier for people? That's using the law of least effort. So, to sum up, define your behavior goals, preferably threat-based, empathize to analyze, let go of wishful thinking, and use the curling approach. All right. Thank you, witches.
Oh, yes, thank you. Thank you both for this good story. Shall I help you with
You think I can handle that?
Oh, I think I can. You can. My question to you is, strategy is of course made by those people who make a lot of money, mostly at C-level, which is fine. But the question is, if you need to have a strategy, do you have a tip to get it from me to the board?
Yes. I think this is has to do with, well, you can bring a barbell to work, and at your next C-level meeting presentation pitch, and you probably have a few minutes because they're busy people. Just throw the barbell on the floor and say, so how are your New Year resolutions going this year? Not good, right? Yeah. So that metaphor of like your own behavior is also not driven by knowing. That helps to make that connection. And the second step is, okay, so what else? Right? So you do need to offer them some solution or something you can try out first. A very alluring option is to start measuring actual behavior before you start changing anything in your approach. They like numbers, those people, strategy people. Show me all the data. To start measuring first, for example, and then call us, I would say.
Amazing products. Perfect.
Necklace.
So we have some room for maybe 2 or 3 questions if somebody has one. Oh, we have here the devil itself.
Oh my God, you're here.
I will bring the mic to you. Stand here.
Thanks. Thank you for your presentation. So I'm going to be the devil's advocate here. But I do have to say, I love everything that you said. Very idealistic, and that's how the world should be, rainbows and unicorns. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, the world does not work that way. And as you said in your presentation as well, that it is individual factors.
A bit close, yeah.
Okay, this is individual factors in addition to environmental factors. And when we talk about organizations, they are made up of many, many people coming from different backgrounds, different baggage, different issues, right? And then you also said that the behavior is individual. So an awareness training, behavior change would mean that you would need a different strategy for every different person. What I'm thinking in terms of practical solutions, what would be your advice to say to someone, let's say here, right? Anybody who wants to implement this in addition to calling you. I think there's a lot of additional steps that need to happen to convince people, because I think a lot of people do understand that awareness trainings don't work, but they don't have anything else. Mm-hmm. And then to say, well, we need to measure behavior and then we need to change behavior at individual level sounds like such a massive goal, and very expensive. So what would be your advice to somebody who, let's say, wants to convince their higher-ups of approaching this strategy in a practical sense?
Thank you. I would say get rid of the humans. No, of course. It's a reality, right? But I'm very happy that you... I'm genuinely, I'm not just using this as a trick, but I'm genuinely happy with that question, because you might think, based on this talk, that we're expecting you guys to make an individual approach to every employee or organization, right? To see, okay, so what drives you and what drives you? No. So there's some common principles underlying principles that guide most of people's behavior. You'll never get to 100%, because then you would need like an individualized approach. So I'm actually, what I've been doing this past 10 years in my career, I've never used an individualized approach, but I have used a customized approach, meaning, noticing the people in this department, this behavior is most important to them as a behavior goal. This department actually has a different behavior goal that's more important for them. And what I notice in this group is, hey, there are a lot of, many people that don't have a lot of work experience, are relatively young. These are people who don't interact with computers a lot, or don't even have their own email address. So, you do need to customize your approach somewhat, but there are some underlying drivers that unite all groups and all individuals. One of those is the law of least effort. So we're all, wouldn't say lazy, but we're all, inclined to take the route of less or least resistance. You don't need to be young or old or whatever. So there's some common underlying things that you can do, but then it still depends on their context and the behavior goal of that department or that organization, how you use that law of least effort. Does it answer your question somewhat? Okay. If you say no, I'll just take up more time. I'm fine. Once I start talking, I won't shut up. So, we don't bite. We do like questions. So if I have not answered your question well enough, or anyone's questions, please let us know. Find us later today.
Thank you. Yeah, give a hand of applause. We have something for you.